Good morning, and welcome to Morning Movie News, where it continues to be a very slow movie news cycle. And with that in mind, it's interesting to see what the trades pick up and what they hold on to in an effort to hold on to your attention. So when James Cameron yesterday decided to diss Wonder Woman, just totally out of the blue, it was a gift from the movie news gods for many outlets. And then when Patty Jenkins decided to respond aggressively, well, the story just got better. I don't think that either one of them handled it well, and I'm sure their publicists are like, why do you do this to me? For both of them, to be perfectly honest. I think James Cameron never should have gone there, although it reminds you that as talented as he is, and James Cameron is such a talented filmmaker, he hasn't worked in quite some time, because I don't know, I think he's like, Avatar, some people love Avatar. I have a hard time understanding how they're going to do 3 more movies, and maybe so does he. And that's why he's pretty much waited a decade to do a follow-up. But I don't think James Cameron has made a bad film, and I think that even when I don't like his movies or think they're, basically I think Titanic is a little bit sappy and I'm not an Avatar fan, you have to admire that they're 2 most successful films of all time. I mean, the guy really knows how to connect to the mass audience, like nobody else, in fact. And you forget that he's not the nicest person. I mean, he has a little bit of a reputation, actually, in Hollywood. And that's why he's gone off to Avatar Land to work by himself, because he doesn't get along very well with others. And as you can see here. And then I have to honestly say that I don't think that Patty Jenkins should have responded. I know that her fans really, I'm sure, wanted her to respond. And, the Wonder Woman core fan base, this also, James Cameron couldn't have done anything more potent to rile them up, right? So I'm sure there was an outcry of you must say something, Patty. But I think Patty shouldn't have allowed the story to, I think she should have killed it in its tracks by not responding, quite frankly. I think she should have been like, it's beneath me to respond to such an absolutely absurd comment, which is clearly absurd. And his comment, by the way, makes absolutely no sense. And as for what James Cameron should have said, if I were his publicist, I'd be like, here's what you should have said, James. I wish I'd known they were going to ask you what you think of Wonder Woman. But he should have just said, it's so nice that after having contributed myself so much to the famous female heroines, in Hollywood, to see another one join the pantheon, right? That's all he had to say. Maybe he feels threatened. He's a very competitive individual. And maybe he's like, hey, I'm the only one who does successful female, kick-ass protagonists. Like he did Ripley, with Aliens. He's, of course, responsible for Sarah Connor, who was his example and his criticism. Jamie Lee Curtis in True Lies. And I think it's interesting, though, that Neytiri from Avatar is a lot like Wonder Woman. She's extremely compassionate and loving and kind, and she even has her own Steve Trevor. She's from a different group of people who meets humans, and it's difficult. It's a very similar story. I mean, Avatar, he admitted, is just space Pocahontas, and it is space Pocahontas. But there are a lot of similarities to Wonder Woman when you think of it. He's probably like, damn, I should have thought of the Disney princess angle. But of course, Avatar worked out great for him, at least so far. And I have to say, Pandora and Animal Kingdom in Disney World is pretty amazing, particularly the Flights of Passage ride, the best ride I've ever been on. Made me actually kind of like Avatar after riding on it. It was so effective at making me feel like I was riding a banshee, which is basically an Avatar dragon. So anyway, this is what he said. It's so stupid that it's almost like not important, right? You're just like, James Cameron, okay? He said old male Hollywood. I'm like, you are personifying old male Hollywood, James Cameron. I mean, that's what your comments do, really. I don't think they make Wonder Woman or Patty Jenkins or anyone involved with the project look bad at all. I think it just makes James Cameron look bad. So why engage him? So anyway, he said, not that Wonder Woman was a bad movie or anything, but it really was a step backward for the character and for female heroines, and it was really just objectified. And I think he's talking about the fact that Wonder Woman, yes, looked great in the movie. Very, and I think that that's something I commented on, both with Wonder Woman and with Atomic Blonde, that it was great to see the evolution of female heroines, that they no longer just have to be like, basically a female equivalent of a male heroine, a hero, a guy having all those masculine qualities, but they could be pay attention, to how they look and try and be very feminine. And I thought that was an evolution, not a step backwards, because that's where female heroines started. They had to basically just be, it was like just this afterthought that they were women. They had to be like, and I think basically, in my opinion, I wrote in my notes here, it's hard to describe. I basically felt that they wanted to create a situation where strength was a masculine quality. I have a big problem with that. I don't think you should assign qualities to genders, because people are very dynamic, and there are, there are different examples of qualities in every category of person, right? You shouldn't assign, there are stereotypes to some degree, but, I think that even that falls away when you start to be a little more honest in depicting people, right? I think stereotypes are, I don't know, it's tough. It's a shorthand that sometimes, stereotypes work because there's evidence for them, but I don't think they should be necessarily reinforced by Hollywood in a negative way. So anyway, I thought it was great. So, James Cameron says, well, Sarah Connor was not a beauty icon, and this is his quote, "She was strong, she was troubled, she was a terrible mother, and she earned the respect of the audience through pure grit." Is James Cameron saying the only reason that you would respect Gal Gadot and Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman is because she looks good? It's almost like James Cameron's projecting how he viewed the movie on the movie. It's like, no, I think Wonder Woman and the whole team earned my respect by not being about how Wonder Woman looked. She looked great, but I don't think Wonder Woman was ever aware of that. I never saw her Vogue. It wasn't important to her. It was an afterthought to her. She cared about her appearance, but then she just I think the best thing to do is to do your best getting ready in the morning and then just forget about it for the rest of the day. It shouldn't influence or inform how you act. And I thought that was what Wonder Woman did. And I think, to be fair, I think this Atomic Blonde vogued a little, but it was pretty much the same there too. And I thought it was fabulous in both cases. I really liked it. And I think Wonder Woman earned everyone's respect. I don't like this idea of pitting women against each other. This type of woman is better than this type of woman. I think it's really bad. And not all female heroes or characters should be cut from the same cloth. And that's what Patty Jenkins basically said. She was like, you shouldn't, limit how women can be depicted as strong heroes. Just like there are all different types of men, there should be all different types of women in movies. And although, to be fair, I don't think there is that much variation in male heroes. When there is, people get really excited for the most part, but I think there could be a little more experimentation with male heroes and how they're depicted. But Gadot recently said that she was happy she didn't want to play the cold-hearted warrior. She called that a cliche, and I would agree to some point that it is a cliche now. And she also said that she didn't want to treat the misogyny in a preaching way, which I think they succeeded in. And it seems like that's what, James Cameron would have wanted to do, like a very G.I. Jane thing. I think all women are tired of this, oh, my eyes are up here garbage, right? Come on, I think just move. I think that it's not nice to put someone on the spot like that, I think everybody's human. And if someone finds you attractive, as long, it's a tough conversation. I don't think you should vilify someone for thinking you're attractive. That would be horrible. I think the dynamics basically between Steve Trevor and Diana Prince were spot on. They were ideal almost. So, and Gadot said she wanted to surprise the audience, and I think they ended up surprising everyone, not just, Hollywood in addition. So at the end of the day, I think this is personally a non-issue. James Cameron just highlighted how old school he is and how non-progressive he is, and also I think a little bit of jealousy, to be perfectly honest with you, and that he's just not a team player or particularly gracious. And we kind of all knew that about James Cameron. This was just a reminder. And I think Patty Jenkins should have stayed away from it. I just would have not touched it. I think that maybe I would have pointed out the Neytiri similarities. Maybe that would be a good way to just kind of jab them a little bit. But without, I think that Patty Jenkins' response was a little bit preachy, and that's something that the Wonder Woman was able to avoid. And just points out how important Alan Heinberg is to that first film, and I feel bad that he's not so far involved with the second, because I think Alan Heinberg was more important than everybody's letting on to the first film. And also I want to point out that way that, James Cameron said that this was an example of old male Hollywood. And you're like, the movie was made by mostly a woman and a gay man. What are you talking about, male Hollywood patting themselves on the back and doing the same thing? It's like he didn't even bother to Google the film. All right, so anyway, that's the first story of the day. Now, speaking of controversy and Hollywood not learning, as many of you, I wasn't aware that the character that Ed Skrein, because I don't read Hellboy, had been cast as was supposed to be Japanese American. Some of you wrote that in the comments when I reported his casting. And sure enough, that has reared its ugly head, well, justifiably so, in not only online, but the trades have picked it up because they need stories. So Ed Skrein was like, I'm so excited to be in Hellboy. And everyone on social media was like, you are a horrible person. You took a role away from an Asian actor, and that was not good. And I feel kind of bad for Hellboy because it's been in such a good position. They have he just debuted in the Injustice 2 DLC Fighter Pack 2. That's a really big deal. I think that the reboot who's been coming together, it's tricky. I don't know if it's going to 100% work, but so far so good. I'm really excited. And then this is just so unfortunate that this would potentially derail the whole thing. And I can't believe they would be so stupid as to make the mistake, which is what a lot of people said on social media, by the way. They're like, what is it going to take, Hollywood, for you to stop doing this? So they took a Japanese American role and they gave it to Ed Skrein. And what's weird about it is that it's a supporting role. It's not even a lead. So I really don't understand what the argument could possibly be, especially since we've been discussing the Asian box office, the Trinity, China, Japan, and South Korea, is so big these days. Why wouldn't you want to have an actor in the film to appeal to that market? It makes absolutely no sense. So, but I guess Hollywood still feels they can sometimes get away with it, because sometimes to get away with it, they do. Well, Ghost in the Shell was a complete debacle. Doctor Strange got away, no problems there. And then we'll see how Death Note does, which hits Netflix today, and whether or not it can overcome that controversy as well. I don't think it's too late. I don't think this Ed Skrein or actually the whitewashing story got too much traction. And if I were associated with this film, I would be like, Ed, I'm going to give you another role. Ed Skrein, I'm going to give you another role. And I'm going to just recast this with a Japanese American actor, because it would be a shame for a movie that has come, a reboot that's doing so well already, to already be taken out of the game by why do it to yourself? It's like the same thing with James Cameron. Why do it to yourself? It makes no sense. All right, so anyway, the third story of the day, I love this story. So Dwayne Johnson tweeted out a story yesterday about a 10-year-old in Detroit who saved his 2-year-old brother from drowning by using chest compressions, mimicking what he'd seen his hero, Dwayne Johnson, do in San Andreas. What a fabulous story. I've put a link down below in the video description so you can see the video of it. And I'm glad that Dwayne Johnson tweeted something out. And I hope that he would maybe at least do like a Skype chat or like a FaceTime chat with this kid, because it's just such a nice thing. And the reason I wanted to bring up the story, not only because Dwayne Johnson could use good publicity like that, and I really, even though I think Dwayne Johnson's a little overexposed and I think he's not the best producer, I think he's really a nice guy. I really think he's likable. I think that for the most part, I enjoy his movies, and I think that this was nice, and this just shows. I think that he has a good heart, even if he doesn't have a great head for business. But anyway, the other reason I wanted to bring it up is that I think it's important to watch movies. At all ages. Sometimes people are like, oh, you shouldn't watch this movie. Like, kids should only watch animation or stuff that's made specifically for kids. And I don't agree with that. I think it's really important to watch all kinds of movies, because I think that it's a way to, for everybody of all ages, because I think it's a way to give you life lessons without having to actually go through these, trying circumstances, right? And you'd be amazed at what you pick up subconsciously, and sometimes, intentionally. Like, I'll never forget, I was unfortunately in a car accident when I was younger, and since I'd seen so many movies, I was like, the car didn't explode, but I was like, quick, get out of the car, like I jumped out of the car, and I helped we all, made sure my family all got out, but as someone who watched a lot of movies, that was like the first thing that occurred to me. I was like, I've seen this before, even though I'd never been in a car accident. And, obviously that wasn't a danger that was going to happen, but, it kept me on my toes, and I didn't just like wait for someone, an adult to come get me. I sprung into action, and you want that. And I think it's a good way to, I think that movies are based on real life. So a lot of the times you'd be like, oh, I've seen someone act weird like that in a movie. That's not a good idea. Or, I think it gives someone the idea of suspicious behavior. Basically, I feel it takes people out of, particularly children, out of a bubble, right? And sometimes you might be like, well, I don't want kids to know about bad things. Well, bad things are out there. And this is a safe way for kids to kind of like get that, just at least that learning, or to, you know, so when if it unfortunately, hopefully never does happen to them, they're already kind of positioned in how to look at it. It's not totally foreign to them, and they're therefore not totally frozen in their tracks. So I just thought that was a great story, and I'm so happy. And the little boy, he saved his little brother's life, and it's just really great. And I'm glad that, again, that Dwayne Johnson reached out to him. I hope he did so even more than just the tweet. All right, so those are the 3 stories of the day. What a weird episode of Morning Movie News, but I hope you're enjoying it. But anyway, the viewer question comes from, it's a little controversial, and this one is controversial too. I think partially because of how I'm going to answer it. So Life is Hell, number 120, hilarious. You're awesome, okay? Said, viewer question, hello Grace. If a girl wants to work now in Hollywood, it's the worst time, as I did some digging, and the highest, I love that when I covered the top paid, I made a mistake. They had listed the top paid actors for 2017 in Forbes, and I love that you went and looked it up. Life is Hell. That's fabulous. So I did some digging, and the highest paid actress this year, Emma Stone, was just $22 million. But last year, in 2016, Jennifer Aniston earned that much, after which every year they have earned more, but not this year. I am like, what? I love this. In spite of all the equality debates and spotlight, we have gotten far worse. Why and how? Please analyze this situation. Fabulous, fabulous question. So just to give you some perspective, last year, what Life is Hell is talking about is that Jennifer Aniston was number 4 with a $21 million payday, and there were 3 women ahead of her who made more than the top earner this year, Emma Stone. And the top one actually was Jennifer Lawrence last year at number 1 with $46 million. That's in the guy territory of what they're earning. And she, although Mark Ruffalo started off the top earners at 20 for guys with just 13. But anyway, Jennifer Lawrence earned that because of her Hunger Games paydays. As we all know, her management team was very aggressive in getting her earnings for that. Very, very smart. And that's why she got paid so much. They really held Lionsgate hostage on that. Even breaking her contract and saying, what are you going to do? Fight us in court? That's just going to delay the movie. And then Passengers, of course, she was very aggressive there and really, took Sony to task for undercutting her with American Hustle, and she got paid a lot there. She didn't really deliver at the box office, so that's why Jennifer Lawrence, while she did make this year's list, she wasn't as high. But anyway, first of all, I'd like to say, let's see what Patty Jenkins' payday is for Wonder Woman 2. It's rumored to be quite big. That could really, make a big difference. But again, she wouldn't make the actresses list. But still, that would be a woman getting paid a lot. But really, the bottom line is that women just need to be in the blockbuster business. And they have to stop, complaining about it or saying like, oh, why doesn't the blockbuster business come to me? And why doesn't the blockbuster business want to make the type of movie I want to make? Just get in there. Just like Patty Jenkins is doing, and like hopefully Ava DuVernay does. I wish she had done Black Panther, but maybe she can make up for it with A Wrinkle in Time. Women need to be, you get paid if you bring in the money, and you do that by selling tickets or by making a movie that people are really interested in, that makes a lot of money. You don't get paid for how awesome you are, right, or your craft. You get, it's a business, and your paycheck reflects your value to the studio. So women need to increase what their value is to the studio. They can't just get paid because of gender equality is the right thing to do. No, I mean, it's a business, and you have to prove your worth. So I think a lot of progress is being made. Life is Hell, and if you want to get into the business, and if you want to work in Hollywood, if you want to be someone who makes this kind of list and gets paid a lot of money, you got to make the movies that make a lot of money. So that's something to keep in mind. All right, so that's today's Morning Movie News. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please write down below, I think, today's top 3 stories, the viewer question, anything you'd like to see covered on Monday, and any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching.